yeah.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine little radio program, podcast, and informational. Is that a word?
Informational?
I
think you may have made that up.
I think I just did.
Shakespeare made up words, so it's okay.
I sort of like it, though. Informational. Welcome, folks, to Smokin' and Toastin'. It's the show that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'.
Hi, Mom.
And Dave Ohmer is our guest today. He's the general manager and brewer at Urban South Brewing HTX, and we'll be talking a lot about Urban South, tasting some of his brews. Dave, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Dave, we call it world famous because, several months back, I became aware that my mom knew that the show existed. My mom doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't approve of those that do. So if she became aware of the show, I felt like we were okay to use the tag world famous.
She's here in the United States?
Yes.
Okay.
She lives just 3-4 hours away.
But just being aware of it.
But the fact that she's aware of it, because I never told her. I didn't want the repercussions I didn't want the conversation that would follow, I love my mom, don't get me wrong, but, there's some conversations that are just better if they're avoided. You understand? So anyway, welcome to the world famous Smokin' and Toastin'. It's show number 197, and we are pretty thrilled to be.
We're a little more than halfway to 200 now.
Yeah, we're getting close. Smokin' and Toastin' is brought to you by a brand new sponsor this week. We're very excited to welcome mycigarshirts.com. You can find them on the web just like it sounds. The coolest shirts for cigar fans, all starting under $20. Grab them for yourself or anyone you know that loves cigars at mycigarshirts.com. Because cigars.
Because cigars.
Yeah. I think you'll like the shirts. They're really awesome. They've got a number of different designs, and they look good, and they're not expensive, so it's an awesome thing. So welcome to show number 197. Urban South is in the house.
Pretty excited about that.
Dave is the general manager and brewer. I got that right, didn't I?
Yes, sir.
General manager and brewer at Urban South Brewing HTX. And the HTX is important because there are, I should say, two different Urban South breweries. The original one in New Orleans.
Yes.
And when did New Orleans start? When did they open?
They just celebrated 4 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then Houston followed that, HTX. So
just this year, right before the pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Grand opening was Leap Day, February 29th.
Well, okay. So now I don't feel so bad for not having known.
Yeah.
Because when
that's gonna mess up your anniversaries, isn't it?
A little bit. We'll just stay young.
Just before all of the COVID stuff hit, my wife and I took what was the last trip that we took. We went to New Orleans for the weekend, and just drove out there, and they were starting to talk about COVID, but they hadn't started locking anything down, and we thought, well, it'll be okay. We'll be really careful. So we went, and we wound up on the balcony of this restaurant down into the French Quarter, and ordered some great New Orleans food. And I was looking at the beer list, and they had a hazy IPA called Holy Roller. I was like, okay, I'll try it. That was the first time I remember having an Urban South beer, and I loved it so much. And you'll remember this, Ian, that I actually stopped at a little store on the way out when we were headed home and brought some in for the show the next week. And that was the first Urban South that we tried. But in doing my research for the show that week, I went on to the website for Urban South and discovered, they have a Houston location. How have I missed this? But now I thought you guys must have just opened.
Started. Yeah.
So we were doing construction at that time, probably.
So we will talk a little bit about what it was like opening during this kind of a crazy time. And I wonder, and we'll get into this a little bit in some of the next segments, but I wonder if in some ways opening kind of as this was starting or after it started doesn't even really give you a little bit of an advantage, because you don't have to see the drop-off from maybe what you were expecting to have as an operating budget before. You're kind of starting fresh at this time, and you can
take a little longer to recoup.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, so we'll talk about all of that. I'm very excited about tasting some of your beers. Ian, you mentioned you tasted, what is it, a lager?
The lager is called Remind me one more time.
Paradise
the
Park?
Paradise Park. That's
Yep.
right. I know. I've had the Paradise Park.
Yeah, that's one of their core beers there in New Orleans.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I think when we did when me and my wife did the Valentine's Day trip, I'm pretty sure my buddy Rand that we stayed with out there, he's a former drummer for one of my bands. I'm pretty sure that he had some of that, and that's where I tasted it because I remember him saying this is a local. And
It's a staple there in New Orleans.
Yeah,
I mean, you find it everywhere.
and it was good.
Both you and I hit New Orleans like just in time and got back safe.
Got out.
Yeah,
pretty much
exactly.
it, right?
So, well, it's really exciting to have you on the show today, Dave. We're excited to taste more of your beers and get a feel for what the rest of your line is like, and that's and of course we're thrilled that you're here in our hometown because that's a pretty cool thing. So, a lot of stuff going on in the world. Oh, I should mention we also will be tasting a rum today. This is the Frigate Reserve 15-year. So that's a little bit of rum. We did of course whiskey last week, and then next week our guest is going to be Liliana Rodriguez. She is now becoming one of the satellite members of the show. We have a whiskey expert, Chris Hart, who does his own whiskey show and does all of that. We have experts in other lines, like our legal expert Trey Boring, who will be on the show in a few weeks again.
I can't wait to see him again. He's on watching today.
Yep.
That's it.
And we have, of course, our cigar retail expert, Mr. Alan Denning,
Absolutely.
who joins us from time to time. And now Liliana is stepping into the role. I haven't really framed it like this for her yet, but hopefully she'll have a good time and have no problem with it. She's stepping into the role of our tequila expert. Apparently, Liliana knows more about tequila than anyone that I've met. And I'll be meeting her actually in person for the first time, but we've corresponded a little on email, and I can already tell she knows way more about it than I do. So I'm excited to get a real expert about tequila on the show next week. And
The kind of person when she says hello, she already stated more about tequila than you've ever
exactly
known.
right. I'm like agave, and she's like giving us the history, I think. So it'll be a lot of fun, and we'll be tasting a number of different tequilas next week. But it's rum this week.
I can come back, right?
You are
right.
always welcome. That's the thing. One of the things, Dave, that we had planned to do for show number 200 is kind of an even bigger version of what we did for the 100th show, which
100 was ridiculous.
Yeah, we invited everyone who'd ever been a guest on the show to join us, and we did it in a place where we could accommodate a lot of people. And of course, not everyone made it, but there were enough.
Many people
and
did.
Everybody brought beers and bottles and cigars, and it was kind of like having our own little virtual smoke and drink fest. And the show went on for 4 hours.
Wow. Sounds like a good time.
It just wouldn't stop.
Yeah, we tried to rein it in, but it took on a life of its own. So we were going to do that again for 200, but of course, in these conditions, we're able to distance a bit in the studio, but there's no way we could pull off an
3
event like
people's
that.
about as much as we can distance in here.
So so the good news is we'll have it when we can have it. It'll just be our sort of delayed bicentennial celebration. So drinking news coming up on the show today. Information on, Ian, for many, many years, the Robusto has been the most popular best-selling cigar size. That is now no longer the case.
Can I guess?
Sure, guess.
Is it Corona?
Nope. It's a Toro.
A Toro.
Yeah, so
okay.
we'll pass along some of that information. Plus, we'll tell you about we've talked about this a little bit in the past couple of weeks, but I'll give you some of the stats. The Texas Craft Brewers Guild says they think 2 out of 3 of their members could close down by January 1st, 2020 from dealing with this. And that's not a happy stat. So we'll talk a little bit about the state of the craft beer industry and how you guys at Urban South are doing what you can to survive and hopefully thrive in our current environment. Plus, there's I talked about this last week, but I didn't give you the story, and I really owe you the story. It's a sad bit of news about the truck that spilled 12,000 bottles of Templeton Rye onto the highway in Missouri. Yeah, not good. Dave, as you can tell, we use nothing but the highest quality sound effects here on the show. So, and in fact, we'll ask you to help us with this because we have a revolutionary way that we play the sound effect of a can of beer or a bottle of beer being opened, and that is that we hold it really close to the microphone and do
open it. Yeah.
Wow.
So we
Wow.
spare
High tech.
we spare every expense.
We don't use our phones for that or anything.
Right. So, all right. And depending on how much time we have, we might even talk about the world's most underrated whiskeys, according to the experts. But we're really excited about tasting Urban South beers, and of course, Ian, I always about this point in the show like to ask you: have you smoked anything interesting lately?
I did. This morning I went into Casa de Monte Cristo and I was perusing their clearance rack. You know, they put they put stuff on the clearance rack a lot of times that you'd be really surprised to see there because
maybe it's a size that didn't sell as well.
Yeah,
as
that's a large part of it. He says, we've had this size for a long time and nobody buys a size, so we just stock up the other sizes and sell these off. So I ended up picking up a box.
Yeah.
On the clearance rack.
Oh.
Of the Hex from Sindicato Cigars. I've had the Hex before, but I don't think I've ever reviewed it on the show. So I thought, you know what? I have a whole box of these. Why don't I take one out and review it?
It's a wonderful idea.
Which I did. So this is a 5x52 Robusto, Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and filler. The appearance on this leathery, veiny wrapper, classy parchment label, pigtail cap, firm, well-constructed feel. Overall, pretty nice looking cigar. Pre-light sniff was earth, chocolate, coffee, a little spice, a little nutty. So a lot of things that I really like in there. The and a little leather in there. I think I forgot to write that down, but the leather was coming through a little bit too. The pre-light draw on this, I used a clip, medium draw on this, leather. Oh, there it is. Spice on the lips, pepper, coffee, mocha, nutty, and a little sweetness in there as well. The initial light. Blast of pepper, all that Nicaraguan filler. You have to expect that a bit.
You're speaking my language.
Yeah.
This is sounding like one of my kind of cigars.
Blast of pepper on the initial light and well-roasted coffee,
Nice.
Hints of burnt toast on the aftertaste in a good way, not like you burnt it completely.
Yeah, not like you set off the
like
fire alarm. But
not like you're breaking your teeth with it or whatever.
Just a little char.
Yeah, the first third of this, sweet mocha, nutty flavor, followed by coffee and toast, finished with spice and pepper. Solid ash, uneven burn. There's a picture of it there. You can see that burn's kind of uneven on the side. It started to canoe just a little bit. I tended it. No big deal. Took me a second to tend it. The second third of this, big silky smoke. This is kind of smoke that I like to, try and blow smoke rings. I'm not amazing at it, but I get a few here and there, and that's always fun.
So were you able to do it this time?
Yes. But I didn't get a picture of it.
You didn't get a picture?
No, because every time I try to take a picture, you see me making this face. and then there's just smoke in front of my face, but you never really see the smoke. I think I need someone else to take the picture is what it is.
Got it. I understand.
So I end up just taking a bunch of pictures of myself making the O face. Oh. Anyway, I'd
like to just point out for the record that Ian just referenced his O face in the show. So.
The nutty, sweet, delicious mocha and coffee notes, followed by spice and pepper, solid ash. The second third of this slightly uneven burn seemed to be evening out a little bit, actually.
Nice.
So I
like when they correct themselves, or maybe with just a little help correct.
The last third of this, I'm going to repeat what I said for the second third of this. Big silky smoke, nutty, sweet, delicious mocha and coffee notes, followed by spice and pepper. It didn't develop into anything else, but that was okay by me because it was delicious.
You were loving where it was.
Absolutely. I did tend it once more, just a little quick tending, and no big deal. This is a $7 cigar, price to quality. Without the tending, I'm going to discount that. I bought a box. Hopefully I won't have to do that with every one of them. Without tending it at all, I give it a 6.5.
Oh, wow. That's a big rating.
A big rating. And then on top of that, I bought this box on clearance. I got about $2.50
Oh, yeah.
each
So
cigar.
that makes it even better. Yeah.
So I'm super happy about this.
So the way that our price to quality works when we talk about cigars is it's a scale of 1 to 10, but a 5 is more or less a spot-on rating. It means you got exactly what you paid for with the cigar. So if the rating is under a 5, it means it doesn't mean the cigar wasn't good, but it might mean that it was maybe a little overpriced for what you got. If you get a 6.5, I mean that's really
punching above its weight class.
Really, that's a really, really good rating. So that's awesome. And thank you, by the way. You slipped me one of these before the show started, and I'm very excited now after your review. I'm pretty excited to try it. Yeah, that's awesome. So I smoked an interesting one this week. It was one I'd seen in shops a number of times and just never picked it up. It was the La Aurora 1985 Maduro, and I chose the Toro. There were several different sizes of Robusto, and I think one that might have been a torpedo, but I chose the Toro. And I've had a lot of La Auroras in the past, but haven't had any in a while. My memories of them are the sort of less expensive La Auroras that are Dominican, that are a little on the mild to medium side, but very, very good. I've had even a box of the little ones of those before, and enjoyed them very much for that style of a cigar. And then there's those really super fancy ones that come in the tubes,
Right.
that are pretty expensive, but are a really, really nice
I got
smoke.
that super nice Perfecto. and
Yes.
It even comes in the Perfecto shaped tube.
Yeah. It's really. I mean, it's one that it's great to give as a gift if you want to look impressive with what you're giving to a buddy or something. But this one had, as you can see from the photo, more of just a kind of a regular cigar look to it. It looked a little bit dark. It was nice looking, a little bit veiny. The wrapper's a Brazilian Maduro wrapper, and it's Nicaraguan binder and Nicaraguan filler, but all rolled in the Dominican Republic, which is where the La Aurora factory is. Pre-light aromas were heavy with earth, some oakiness, and a little bit of leather. Once I lit it up, I got that expected early blast of Nicaraguan pepper that we talk about a lot. But it settled down a bit, and even though after it settled down, this let me know this was a bit fuller-bodied La Aurora from the very beginning than some of the Dominican ones that I remember, which are good, but not quite as full. As I got into the first half inch or so, it developed a really nice, slightly bitter, dark chocolate aroma. That would wind up being the predominant sort of flavor throughout, is that really nice, wonderfully bitter dark chocolate. There was also a bit of oakiness still in there, and it had this little bit, I don't quite know how to describe it, except it was almost a kind of a sweet flavor on the finish. And that sweet flavor got a little creamier by the time I reached the halfway point of the cigar. So it was really nice kind of balance for the sort of heavier pepper and dark chocolate flavors. Really made it smoke very nice. Leather notes also became a little more prominent. Cigar stayed at about a medium full level throughout.
I'm surprised. Look at the wrapper on that thing. That thing is dark.
Oh, it really is. And but from where it came through as in terms of the flavors and the strength, it was pretty much like dead on for me. What I really like in terms of my kind of smoke. The burn fluctuated slightly as it moved along the veins of the cigar. You could see, the points where the veins would poke out a little bit from the burn line.
Right.
But overall, it stayed straight. It never needed tending. I found myself thinking that this is how a cigar is supposed to smoke. Not every cigar has that totally smooth wrapper on it. Some of them have these kind of veins, and sometimes that really does cause problems in the construction. It did not with this cigar. It smoked great. The construction was terrific. By the last third, dark chocolate and oak kind of won out as the dominant flavors, but there was still nice complexity all the way through. I really enjoyed this cigar, and to be honest,
that makes me want like a nice space side with it or something that has a little more of the fruity profile to go with it. Yeah.
Absolutely, it would work very, very well with this. At a price point of about $6, this is a pretty easy cigar to recommend, and I will give it a 5.5.
Nice.
It's not, it wasn't the best cigar that I've had in a long time or anything like that. But again, $6, it's tough to beat that for $6. So thumbs up, and I enjoyed it, and it was wonderful. So a lot of beer to talk about on this show, and of course we have some drinking news coming along. And today's drinking news, you're almost going to have to see the accompanying picture in order to get the full enjoyment.
Speaking of picture, I woke up this morning and I had a communication from a Mr. Bruce Stark.
Aw, Bruce. Love Bruce.
He's
He's
yes,
awesome.
he always logs on with the well when we're on here. So I'm gonna have to, it brings an idea up. If you're on here watching, record yourself doing the well and just send it to us.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Like, how much fun would that be?
Yeah.
We'll use some
You can
wells.
just record it on your phone and and text it to us or put it in the comments. We'll take it off of there and that'll be great.
But I opened the communication and I saw this picture on there. This is what he sent me.
So it'll take me, because there's always a little lag on the.
There's about a 30-second lag from what we see and what we're talking here.
I'll watch the phone and
but
see.
But Bruce is always so much fun, and he's sent this great picture of himself.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
And there
look
it
at
is.
that. Look at that. There's Bruce with the Smoking and Toasted logo behind him. Now, that makes me think we should totally use that for like a Zoom background the next time.
Right? That's pretty awesome. He's got the cigar in his mouth, and he's got his opener right there. So I was super happy to see that. Hey, Bruce.
That's great, Bruce. Thanks for that. We appreciate it. Well, if you are listening to the audio version of this, you might want to, at some point, go and check out the YouTube video version just for the photo that will be in Drinking News today, because it'll help you appreciate Drinking News to its fullest.
And yes.
Yeah,
in a much deeper way.
So we'll be getting to that, and we'll be getting to the thing I'm so excited about, which is tasting more Urban South. I say more because we haven't tasted any yet. We'll taste, hopefully, a lot of Urban South. So we're looking forward to that. Dave, thanks so much for being on the show today. We will be right back with our next segment, show number 197 of the world-famous Smoking and Toasted. We'll be right back. Hi, Mom.
Oh, he said it's a Zoom back.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toastin'. It's the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Thank you for joining us for show number 196. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Great cigars. Great cigars.
Great cigars.
Great cigars. That should be the slogan. Great shirts for cigar aficionados and great gifts for anybody you know that likes premium cigars, and they are relatively inexpensive, starting at under $20. Check them out at mycigarshirts.com, because cigars. So Ian, you you mentioned it was mentioned in the break. Adam told us actually that in that photo of Bruce Stark, that he was holding the bottle opener upside down. But it also mentioned that he was wearing a Sam Adams shirt, and of course we appreciate everything that Sam Adams has done in terms of being an innovator in the craft beer world. And here's an interesting and really cool thing that they just did. I'll try to explain this quickly. In their home territory of Massachusetts, the law regarding how beers are distributed, it permanently binds a brewery to whatever distributor it initially had done business with. So wherever they started, they never have the option to change distributors. And if you're a smaller brewery and you sign up with one of the distributors, you're kind of at their whim of what they're pushing and marketing and trying to get shelf space for the most. In Boston, he says, Jim Cook from Sam Adams said he can only sell his beer to the single distributors, and retailers can't get it from anybody except that distributor. He said it might have made sense 50 or 80 years ago when wholesalers were quite small and the brewers were all powerful. But now it's the distributors that actually have the power. And it's like that in a lot of other places too.
Oh, yeah.
But specifically in their home territory, that's how it was set up.
Not to mention that if you get a distributor who has some of the bigger macro brews, the macro brews can lean on them and say, no,
Absolutely.
we really want you to sell our product.
Right. Especially
Oh, yeah.
if they've gone and bought a craft brewery and they're trying to
Not that
lock
anyone
up all
would be as underhanded to AB InBev do that, but
Yes,
you know.
exactly. Well, in a beer advocate forum about this law, somebody wrote, imagine you're a growing local brand, and they mentioned Night Shift and Newburyport and Notch, which are all breweries in that area that are small and growing, and you're suddenly railroaded by Not Your Father's root beer and beers of its ilk flooding the market, and you end up relegated to the back end of your distributor's priority list. Maybe you get their attention again when the current fad dies down, but maybe not. But hey, you signed a contract 6 months ago and you're stuck for life as an also ran in your distributor's portfolio. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because Sam Adams did something really cool. They were lobbying for an exception to this rule in Massachusetts. And in order to get it passed, they agreed to exempt themselves from it. In other words, because they're one of the biggest craft beer distributors that's, owned and operated as a craft beer in the country, but they're far and away the biggest in the Boston area and in New England.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically agreed that if they would pass this law for all of the other smaller craft brewers in the area, that they would agree to be exempted from it. And I just think that's amazing.
Wow, taking one for the team,
yeah,
so to
they
speak.
totally took. They basically took it for their competitors. I guess you could look at it that way. But I just, again, my hat is off
that's
to
for the
those
craft.
guys. It's for the craft. And that's one thing, because I've had a chance to meet Jim Cook from Sam Adams and Boston Beer Company, and he is that passionate about beer. He loves their beer. It's what he's most passionate about. But he's passionate about beer and the whole idea of craft
That's
brewing.
amazing.
So I just thought that was, and I was glad Bruce was wearing the Sam Adams shirt because they deserve to be recognized for doing something that didn't wind up benefiting them at all in the end, but benefited the craft beer industry as a whole. I see that you have already gotten busy pouring, and that's, I'd just like to say, Dave, you are the kind of guest we like. You didn't waste any time. You went right to the pour, and I'm passing this one over to Adam. This is wow, what a beautiful color that is.
Yeah.
It looks like, almost looks like a party punch or something. Something
Probably
like
closer to that, yeah.
a deep red, and this is, which one are we tasting now?
This is from our Spilled series, which is our fruited sour series that we release about every other week, probably twice a month.
Okay.
And it's heavily fruited. It's a kettle sour. Then we do basically 4 flavors each time we release it, 3 to 4. And we just pack as much fruit in this as possible. And it's always a play for us on trying to hit that sweet and sour sort of combo.
Because it's that balance that's so good.
Yeah.
This is so fun to drink.
It really is.
Can I hope that you take this in the best way possible. Do you remember when you were a kid and you get a Slurpee?
Yeah.
And it would melt down and just become this kind of carbonated sludge that was awesome.
I know. That was one of my favorite parts about the Slurpee.
Yes, this is like that without all the carbonation.
And alcohol.
And it has alcohol, so it's grown up.
What you wanted from the Slurpee, what you didn't want was when you were drinking it and you pulled all of the flavor stuff out of it and you were just had the ice left.
Right.
Yeah.
When it went the direction you're talking about, that was when you were like, oh, I got a good one. I totally got a good one.
Yep.
But you're right. It's like I was going to say it's like a Jolly Rancher, but then like I was enjoying the finish on it.
That tartness on the finish.
It's way more fresh fruit tasting than that. It's
Okay.
got what fruits are in here?
This is mango and cherry slushy. And so it is exactly that. It's tons of fresh mango and cherry in there, tart cherry, and then a cherry slushy mix in there.
If you're a person that has avoided sours because maybe you tried one and it just didn't do it for your palate, you should come back to sours and try this one. Because I think this is very accessible for people who may not think of themselves as fans of sour beer.
This is like that perfect sweet tart that you get that you put in your mouth that just crumbles into powder all of a sudden. It's that one in every package.
Yep.
It's like that thing.
Right, and you go through the rest of the package looking to see if there's any others of that color. That's exactly what it's like.
Good.
That's exactly what it's like.
That's what we intended.
Yeah, this is delicious. So tell me about this live wire line. You put these out, you said, every couple of weeks.
Yeah, the spilled ones, they're the ones that you see probably most from us.
Right.
And the ones with the drips, we always call it, and that's what sort of gets referenced a lot.
So the line is spilled. I called it live wire, but that's one of
and
the other ones.
that's one of the flavors in the spilled one, which I think we had too much text to put on that one. So,
but spilled is the name. So when you put one of these out, how long would we still be able to get it normally?
The spilled will sell out in the first few days. There won't be any left, after 6 days. Definitely don't last a week.
And is it easiest to get one than by coming directly to the brewery?
Come to the brewery, or We have online stores that are linked in all our bios, whether it's Instagram or Facebook.
What side of town is your brewery on?
We are on the west side of the city. We're in the Sawyer Yards area.
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
sort of
Kind
called.
of Heights, Midtown.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But
yeah.
right at Studemont and Washington.
Gotcha.
It's real close to both of us, Ian.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's on the
It's
way
a great
home.
central location. It really is. You can get right there. It's right off of 10, 69. It's easy to get there. A little tucked back off of Washington a little bit, but you won't have any trouble
I
finding
love
it.
this. This is ridiculous.
Yes.
And I love it.
It's
Great.
ridiculous and wonderful. Dave, one of the things we tell a lot of our guests is that it's an established fact that Smokin' and Toastin', our show, does in fact influence sales. And that will be the case for
All
you
right.
because I have a feeling that both Ian and I will be stopping by the brewery
Great.
getting more of this. This is absolutely wonderful. Wow. And I want to say again, when you think of a sour, you often think of something where sour is the predominant thing.
Yeah.
And in this one, the sort of sweetness of the fruit is just as present as
It's sweet,
the sour. It's so balanced.
Sweet and round up front with a little touch of carbonation, and the finish has just that tart snap that just finishes it with leaving your mouth just watering.
Yeah, and I think that's what brings you back to it. If it was all sweetness, it'd
be
get
too sweet.
cloyingly
Yeah,
and
right.
just stick around. So that's what sort of makes it refreshing and brings you back for your next sip.
And I think it needs that too because it's
Yeah.
such a big mouthfeel too. This
Yeah.
is not a thin, watery thing.
So
Right,
that's
exactly right.
That's the new sort of sort of fad in these styles is the thick smoothie style sours.
Yeah.
Which,
we
yeah.
really try to play into that a lot.
Which that, of course, has become a big thing with IPAs. Is this
thickness,
kind of
yeah.
consistency and having that almost milkshake vibe to them.
Yep.
There's a lot of IPAs coming out, the juicy and hazy ones especially, like this. But you're saying that this is a really developing trend in sours.
Sours, yeah, and
Wow.
it's gonna really start to take off throughout the rest of this year.
And I'm a big fan of sours anyway, so I'm glad
Cool.
when sours come into style because I like them sour. I'm okay
Yeah,
with
me too.
Yeah.
Petrus and beers like that are super sour. A lot of people don't like that much sour, but to me, this is odd. Look how it sticks to the glass too.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's great. This is a really,
and that's
really,
the mango pulp for this one is what really gives it that thickness.
Love
It's-
that.
Yeah.
really wonderful beer. So you mentioned that these sell out pretty quickly,
Yeah.
which is why you do them so often. Has that been? I mean, you guys didn't open the Houston location until really the pandemic was just beginning to kind of get into full swing.
Yeah.
How has that affected you guys? You, at least for the Houston location, you really didn't have a sense of life before it. So
Yeah.
it's all been since it started.
Yeah, we were about 3 weeks before the shutdown, so we had people in the tap room for about 3 weeks, which isn't much to get sort of things set and established. But we are pretty fortunate to have a inline canning operation, and we were able to switch over immediately. We hadn't really, we don't have much plans on distribution. Besides some of our friends that are very craft beer centric. So it allowed us. We were fortunate just to be able to switch everything right off over to cans. Took all the kegs offline and got those all into cans, and I think it sort of allowed us to establish that. We had about a 2-week window after the shutdown happened to where we were sort of trying to figure that out, but then we were hitting the ground running with all these cans and just really pumping those out there, and I think we were able to start fresh with that sort of new model.
Now,
That's
in the
great.
build, did you end up getting a lot of support from the original brewery?
They're terrible.
They're terrible. They're the worst people ever. I'm just curious because I don't know how you guys are structured, if you're separate but together, or if you're
Yeah.
part of the same, very, very same company under the same roof sort of thing. But I imagine with the canning situation and everything, that probably made a big difference.
Yeah, that was huge. What we are just underneath their umbrella. We're their second location.
Good.
But we built
Good,
it
gotcha.
for a sort of different type of model in craft beer, which is that direct to consumer, really push a tap room experience, sell everything over the bar top, as we like to say.
What's available there? You have growlers and crowlers, or
No,
is it
all
six
cans.
packs?
All cans, all 16-ounce
16-ounce
cans,
cans?
especially for right now. We were doing growlers and crowlers and stuff like that when we had draft, but we've just taken all the draft beer out of the situation, put it all in cans for the current times.
Yeah, no one's coming in your draft room.
Can't
so.
have them in there. Yeah.
So you weren't really set up with with a lot of stuff that was different from that. You were able to transition over your draft stuff and your kegs. How was it? I'm curious. In New Orleans, did they have a tougher time adapting based on the fact they've been around for a lot longer, and they're used to having some distribution and things like that?
They are a bigger ship. It takes a little bit longer to turn for some reasons,
Sure,
but
yeah.
it actually hit them at a really good time, sort of, where they were about to have their 4-year anniversary, and they had all these small batch beers ready to go. I mean, we're talking 14 different ones. And so all they did was space those out for the first couple weeks of this thing, and then we're able to catch up, and they've just been doing the same sort of thing. Now, it did affect their distribution sales.
Sure.
They're the second largest brewery in the state of Louisiana, behind Abita. And their distribution throughout the whole state, and then New Orleans itself. New Orleans got hit so hard at the beginning, and with Bourbon Street and all the cans and draft beer you sell along there, and all the festivals where you're just, they'll have a music festival, and they'll take a whole truckload of beer to it, and it all sells through their distributor.
And suddenly that's just completely gone.
Yeah,
yes,
so
exactly.
They took a 50% hit on their distro sales, but they were able to shift to this more small batch canning model and do online sales. So they've been able to sort of manage it quite well, shifting to a sort of smaller model that has absorbed a lot of what they would have taken a hit on in distro.
I noticed on the spilled fruited sour that we just tasted, the logo, the Urban South logo on the can does say Urban South HTX. Does this mean that you guys brewed this, but New Orleans didn't do a version of this, correct?
Did not. Yeah. So we're now they are starting to do the spilled series. They've done one release of those. As that just we are their R&D facility. That's what we were built to be.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, we're a 10-barrel brew house with compared to their 45 barrels that they're pumping out on each turn, and big huge tanks where ours are small. And so we are here to do a lot of these sort of fun, more experimental, see what the heck happens, see what people think of a green beer type thing.
I love that.
And so this is. We are the same company. We do Holy Roller occasionally here in Houston, but for the most part, they allow us to be creative and do our own thing. And at 10 barrels at a time, you can sort of throw it against the wall and see what sticks.
I just love that kind of experimentation and creativity. And I'm guessing that maybe one of the things that helped you guys a little bit once the pandemic hit is you hadn't had the need before the pandemic to staff up really bigger and have a big workforce that now maybe you didn't have enough for them to do, and was creating a big amount for you to have to spend in order to keep your payroll going. So.
Yeah, that was when you brought that up in the first segment or earlier that I hadn't really thought about that, like how it was sort of good timing. I mean, we were able to keep everybody employed and keep everybody, we just sort of shifted them around, moved some bartenders onto the canning line, and kept everybody rocking. So in that aspect, it was decent timing to where we were not established in any one direction. We were able to just focus on the new.
Yeah, focus on the new.
I want to point out that ever since my early 20s, the first time I ever had green beer.
Yeah.
And the resulting day after of the green beer, I have never had a green beer since.
Well, I will say the green beers
Ever.
that I've had have always been consumed on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. Also,
but this is a very different looking green beer.
But I want
It sure is.
to point out that I'm going to try a green beer, and this has the same consistency as the previous beer that we had, and this is a beautiful, almost vibrant, mossy green.
Well, my question for you, Dave, is that this fruited sour spill line. So the other one was spilled. This is spill.
Yeah, so we have spill, spilled, and spilt.
Okay. So this is spill.
No confusion there.
It says on the can, tangerine, blue raspberry slushy. And you can see the illustration. It's a can of paint pouring out this deep blue, real, almost like a blueberry-looking color.
Yeah, we missed the mark there a little bit, maybe.
So why is the beer green?
Yeah, we definitely.
There's no green fruit in this.
No, but there is an orange fruit and a blue fruit.
Okay.
And so you get a green beer.
Okay, so what happened the first time you looked at it? Was everyone going,
no, we were pumped. As soon as we got the blue raspberry in, we were like, oh, this beer is going to be green. But by then, you already had to have the labels done, printed, shipped, and I was like, oh man, why didn't I put that together before I made this label? But hey,
This is awesome.
I love the surprise when people are getting that can and then they pour it.
And then you open it and pour it like, what is this? Did they put the wrong beer in here?
Nope.
But no, this is right, ladies and
This has
gentlemen.
a little more tart to it.
Yes, it does.
Especially on the back end. But I like it's
raspberries are tart and a citrus fruit. So
Right.
I mean that plays a big part in it.
It's not quite as slushy as the previous one that we had, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Well, certainly for a green beer, you would never expect any green beer you've ever had before to be slushied like this, to have this kind of consistency.
No, that's part of the cool
this
part.
This looks terrifying in the most wonderful way.
Yeah.
Like, what are you pouring me? But
then it's all fruit after that.
But
it's delicious.
It's not kiwi. It looks like it might be kiwi.
Yeah.
That's not what the flavor is. It's definitely got that raspberry to it. I'm just used to the raspberry stuff being like that sort of reddish pink. You know?
Yeah.
Right. So usually, like we taste with our eyes a lot. So you look at this and you expect certain things. Like I was expecting green apple or all kinds of different things, and it's none of those things. It's raspberry and blueberry, and
I would think this is would be a really fun beer. If you have people over, like friends or family over, and you go, hey, you guys have to try this. Just show them the can and then open it up. Like it'll completely be.
I sold a guy a 4-pack on just that. He's like, I love to buy beers to share and impress and everything. I was like, well, here's your 4-pack.
Here's your 4-pack. Yeah, for sure.
Trust me, wait to see it.
Yeah. It is delicious though. Like Ian said, it's got that wonderful kind of tartness to it that just brings you back wanting another sip.
So let me get this straight about you. You're okay with slushy beer and pulpy beer, but not chunky.
Love slushy and pulpy beer, but okay. So
but not chunky.
So here's the thing: you shouldn't be able to chew it. Is my thing. Ian, of course, being a fan of a lot of the bigger beers, has brought beers in on more than one occasion for us to sample on the show. That have had, I don't just mean chunks, they've had stuff that sticks to your teeth in them.
Yeah.
I don't mind a little bit of, tighter consistency here. But
listen, when I buy orange juice, I go for high pulp. So this is right up my
absolutely.
Up my
Well, this totally works for me, but I don't want to have to use a toothpick after I have a beer, is what I'm getting at. That's Now, I noticed, by the way, when you opened the first one up, you did a thing that I've mostly seen people do with like the juicier IPAs or things that are going to have a lot, but you kind of gently rolled the can a little bit to distribute the ingredients a little, the sediment before you opened it up. And these are the kind of beers you would definitely, that definitely benefit from doing that before you open them.
Especially like the first one was a beer that we put out a couple weeks ago. So we had.
So it's maybe sat a little longer.
We haven't beaten gravity yet. I mean, it just always happens.
I love that.
Well, hazy and juicy don't even begin to describe what's going on here.
Yeah, this really is wonderful. It's got a flavor that is really different from anything I think I've had in a beer before.
Great.
I love it.
I want to point out a refreshing and super wonderful thing right now. We've just had an entire discussion about 2 different beers so far. And no one's mentioned the hop content in any of it.
Yeah.
Well,
there's 0. That's why.
I get it. But, I love hoppy beers, but these are wonderful. One of the things that happens to me when I drink beers that are not as hoppy is I'm going, okay, well, where's the flavor going to come from?
Yeah.
If it's got a great malt flavor to it, I love that. I think of like the Guten Tag from St. Arnold is a great example of that. It's not a hoppy beer at all, but the malt is so delicious.
You know when I'm drinking Guten Tag and someone comes up and be like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's the opposite."
And that's really what
of
it is.
An IPA. It's the
but
actual
I love
opposite.
That. And it's really good when you've got the darker beers that have got the the dried fruit flavors and the coffee flavors and things like that. As long as it's presenting me with a big flavor, what I don't like as much are the beers that don't have a lot of flavor coming from hops and don't really have a lot of other flavor in them as well. Flavor is not a problem for either of these. No. They are flavor bombs, but in the best possible way. Best possible way. Well, this is very impressive, and I've never had one of your sours before, so this is
very cool.
This is very impressive. So
I can't stop drinking. I'm just destroying these beers.
You mentioned you had spill, spilled, and spilt.
Yeah, and so the difference between those is ABV. This one comes in usually between 5 and 5.5. What ends up happening is you have to brew up and then you fruit back down because fruit obviously won't have the alcohol in it.
Sure,
we don't let it ferment. So it's really like a 7% beer,
But the fruit content brings it back
basically
down.
dilute it down with fruit.
Right.
And that brings it into, depending on the fruit level, it's between 5 and 5.5.
So
Spilled comes in at 6 to 6.5. We brew that up to 8%, and then fruit down.
Fruit bound, yeah.
And then the last one starts at 10, and it's super fruited, the Spilt series. And we don't do those. We do those maybe once a month. It's super fruited. It's brewed up to 10% and bring it back down to 8%. So you're drinking this juice bomb at 8%, and it'll catch you. It'll catch you quick.
I want to make sure
you don't even get even the smallest vibe of that.
It doesn't
at
come
all.
off boozy
Not
at all, does it? No, it really doesn't. So I want to make sure I understand how these series work.
If you figure it out, tell me.
Okay. So let me take a stab at this and tell me if I'm close.
The rules are interpretive.
Yeah.
It's the spilled series, right? There's three
Levels.
spill, spilled, and spilt.
Oh, yeah. But within there's other levels.
Okay. But what I can get right now at the brewery that's spilled, that may be a completely different spilled beer in a few weeks.
Oh, I mean, like tomorrow.
So in other words, they don't stay the same even if the name stays the same, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
It's different versions of each name are continuing to
so
go.
each week we come out with 3 to 4 different of one of the lines. This releasing tomorrow will be 4 different, or this week will be 4 different spilled beers. So we have the Live Wire, we have a mango white chocolate, we have a coconut passion fruit lime, and we have another one. I can't even keep up.
Okay, so I don't want to sample all of our beers in this segment because I want to make sure we have some.
Oh, we got plenty.
Upcoming. Okay. Well, when we get to the live wire, which we'll do in the next segment because we're about to take a break, this one doesn't say spill, spilled, or spilt.
Yeah, it was supposed to say spilled.
Oh, it was? Okay.
But we just ran out of line because I wanted to keep
okay.
Live Wire in there because that's the old Mountain Dew drink that doesn't exist anymore. So
Also a Motley Crue song.
Right.
yeah,
Thank you.
And then we wanted to list the fruits on there, so we just didn't have.
Okay, so but live wire is a spilled.
It's a spilled, yeah. Anytime you see the drips on there, that's in the spilled lineup.
All right, and if you see something that
The
looks
paint
more
can.
like the paint can, that's a spill.
Yeah.
And how about spilt? What's different about
Spilled
it?
is just a blob of paint on the can.
I love it.
That's
I love
great.
it. All right.
And the colors change each time, depending on the fruit that's in it. And then within those, there's a single spilled, a double spilled, and a triple spilled. And those all are sort of relative to the amount of fruit that are in them.
You know what this reminds me of?
I'm going to start a graph here.
Yeah.
Well, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a sci-fi series, like a Star Trek or a Star Wars. Like it has its own universe, and when you meet people that are fans of that universe, they know all about it. They know all the different alien species. They know what planets they're from and all that stuff.
Speak the language.
This is kind of like that. Like if you really start to get into this, you learn the language of this, and it's got what's fun about it is it's got something to learn.
Yeah.
You see people asking online, like in a Instagram post, like, "Hey, what is this one?" or something, and our fans are the ones who come back and answer for them, like, "No, this is spilled that has this much." And I'm like,
I love
thank
it.
you.
It's so great. All right, so we do want to try the live wire, which is a spilled, and we'll get to that plus some other Urban South beers in just a few moments. Our guest today is Dave Ohmer. He is the general manager and brewer at Urban South HTX, and this is Smoking and Toasting, number 197. We'll be right back.
Those are fun.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Smoking and Toasting. This is the show that is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. The coolest shirts for cigar fans and all starting under $20. You can grab them for yourself or anyone you know that loves cigars at MyCigarShirts.com. I like them because they're a little snarky, the cigar shirts. I like
I
like
can't
these.
imagine.
My favorite one is a shirt that says, I'm not going to get this quite right, but it says, I love cigars. Or I love cigars. You, not so much. So it's stuff like that. It's fun stuff. So check it out, mycigarshirts.com, because cigars. Gentlemen, we need to do something very important on the show right now, and I hope you will join us in this, Dave. We need to observe a moment of silence. I'm not unhappy about this, but it's important that it be observed in the proper way. So now a smoking and toasting moment of silence. That's all we needed. Our moment of silence is for Nat Sherman Cigars.
Finally bit it, huh?
They are biting the big one. Nat Sherman Cigars are going to go away and disappear, and it is as if karma or God or the universe, whatever you believe, has finally moved in a proper direction and allowed this to happen.
So it's as if the company that owned them doesn't care about them?
Yes, which we already knew.
Okay.
Yeah, we already knew this when they supported the cigar legislation, which makes it onerously difficult for cigar companies and many cigar retail operations. They actually came out and said this legislation was good. Now, of course, their primary sales that this company that owned Nat Sherman come from, their primary sales come from cigarettes, not from cigars. So, yeah, they didn't really care about cigars. But whenever that happened, and if you remember, we had a whole series of discussion and debates about this. Our buddy Alan Denny and our friend Chris Hart. Nobody cares about either of those guys, but they were on the show. We talked about it in a zillion different ways. But I said, look, I'm not like leading a national boycott or anything, but I'll never buy another Nat Sherman cigar. Not when they're basically their company is standing against the entire cigar industry.
Yeah.
Think about it, Dave. If one of the bigger craft brewers, if Sierra Nevada came out and said they supported some kind of legislation that made it made it tough for smaller craft breweries, you wouldn't want to go spend $1 on
voting with your dollar is strong.
By the way, Sierra Nevada did not do that, and in fact, we talked earlier about how Sam Adams had done the opposite of that.
Yes.
They'd taken a move to help smaller brewers, but Nat Sherman, they're closing down the entire Nat Sherman line. And they are shutting down their store in New York City, the Nat Sherman store.
Was this a cigar that you got that was supported well before and then was bought out by someone, or a little backstory here?
I believe that Nat Sherman started out as an independent brand and then was bought by this large tobacco conglomerate. But the Nat Sherman cigar store in New York City, I've been in there. It's a wonderful place. It's just a beautiful facility. I'm sure they're struggling now with COVID and being
As anybody,
the shutdown would be tough on them.
But and New York cigar politics.
Oh yeah, there's that as well, which is a tough thing. But they're shutting down. So now I feel like my boycott can be totally lifted, because since they're shutting down the line, now if I were to buy a Nat Sherman cigar, I'm only helping, Casa de Monte Cristo or Stogie's or one of my favorite cigar shops to sell off their inventory, which will be no way for them to return or do anything. But it's already been, Nat Sherman's not making any money off this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just supporting my local guys now by buying out their existing stock, and I do like that timeless cigar that they have.
The thing that sucks about all of this is the ones who suffered from all that were the Nat Sherman employees.
Right. Yeah, and I do agree with that.
Them.
I do agree with that. And we know one of those who's a former Nat Sherman employee who's now gainfully employed with another company.
Yes.
And he, by the way, you want to get somebody talking about Nat Sherman, ask him. He'll tell you. He worked there. So anyway, there's our moment of silence for today's show. Now let's get back to the fruited sour. We've got the live wire, which you said is a spilled. Right?
You're learning.
Yeah, see, that was wonderful, wasn't it? So spilled is in the it's spilled and spilt. So spilled is in the middle in terms of ABV, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And this one looks like, what it looks like is that sort of combination. You ever get that juice, Ian, that's like orange and grapefruit mixed together?
Right.
That's what the color of this looks like. If you take a look at the color and consistency, a little darker than an orange juice, but not quite grapefruit juice either. That looks fantastic.
Yeah, and this is tangerine again. So our same tangerine puree that we use, and then Mountain Dew syrup, like straight bag in a box. Mountain Dew.
Actual real Mountain Dew.
So this has a caffeine content.
Sure does. Yeah.
So you know what is interesting about this and some of the other sours is none of them have had a nose that If you're just smelling them before.
You could smell the sour.
Yeah, but
A
none of
little
them
bit on this one, yeah.
None of them have had a nose that represented what you get on the taste buds when you take that first sip.
Okay.
No,
It's
this
definitely-
this I smell sour and a little
Yeah.
citrus, but
Yeah,
I don't
there's
get a
little
lot
there.
of.
But for how I mean, I haven't tasted.
There's not
it
a
yet,
lot
but
of
I'm-
definition to the nose on it.
I'm
if
betting
that makes
though
sense.
that I'm betting though that for the taste that you're going to get on your tongue and on your palate, that the nose doesn't really warn you for what's coming.
Well, that's interesting.
Wow.
And this is
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
this is definitely a tug back at the probably Gen X people who
Sure.
are really
Mountain
right there
Dew
for
was,
Mountain.
was a thing.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah.
I like it, and I'm not actually a huge Mountain Dew fan.
Yeah,
but,
me neither.
But
I drank a
kinda
lot of
dig
Mountain
this.
Dew when I was a kid.
Well, of course you do, because you ride mountain bikes. That's like a prerequisite, right?
As I got
Is
to
that
be
how
an
it works?
adult,
Dirt bikes and stuff. Don't you
I do ride
have
mountain bikes. Yeah.
don't you have to have Mountain Dew if you ride one of those? It's a requirement. I
There
think.
might
I
have
think
been
it's
a,
Monster Energy drinks today.
Oh, I
yeah,
think it
now
is,
it's
yeah.
now it's Monster and Red Bull
Yeah.
sponsor everybody.
Yeah.
But I drank Mountain Dew for actually a lot of years. That was my soda pop of choice, if you will.
Wow.
And at one point in time, I was having a lot of heartburn,
No, man.
Yeah.
and I just happened to not drink Mountain Dew for about a week, and I was like, I didn't have any heartburn, and I had one in my
Yeah.
fridge, and I opened it up, and I took a sip, and it was
Immediate?
almost instant
Yeah.
heartburn. And I just don't drink it since. This is super interesting, though.
I'm curious as these have gone, is this one that the sales took off? Is this one that was a little slower than the others? How's this one sold in comparison to the other beers in the series?
This one is out right now, so you can get it. This one is released this week. We had a great first 2 nights of sales for it, so we'll see. I mean, this was definitely one that like people were on right away. If you were a fan of Livewire Mountain Dew, you've already bought a case of it.
Well,
The others are like,
Right.
really?
I'm not
But
against
I
having a little
love-
caffeine in an alcoholic drink. I actually think it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love, though, that you will be this experimental. I mean, and I really like this. This wouldn't be one I would buy a case of.
Yeah.
But I know people that would immediately want a case of this.
Yeah.
Just people that love Mountain Dew in
Just for the fun
a
of it.
serious way, and it is so fun. But I love that you guys are not afraid to just go, let's try it.
Is it mango you said in there?
Tangerine.
Tangerine, that's what
Orange.
it is.
So the dripping colors tell us a little bit about the
Typically, yeah.
primary fruit and flavor that's in here.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we just stole Mountain Dew's orange and red or green there, or red and green there, and just put it on there.
So let me ask you this: can you actually source the Mountain Dew syrup or mix?
It
or
was
whatever
not
is?
easy right now because of the pandemic. A lot of these syrups are very much devoted towards movie theaters, and
Right.
so like they've shut down a lot of those lines because they just don't have an outlet for them. But we called around enough places and had it shipped here, and it wasn't as easy
How
as
much
normally
did
would
you
be.
have to buy? Like that stuff comes in a big bag, right?
Yeah, 5-gallon bags.
5-gallon
yeah,
bag.
what they call bag in a box.
Right.
Yeah.
And how many of those go into making this?
Not that 2. Matter of fact,
2? Yeah, that's 10 gallons though. That's,
yeah.
So
And it's pretty concentrated, so
Yeah.
and so when you talk about the syrup, basically what you're mixing into the beer is the same thing that if you're a movie theater or a place with fountain drinks, it's the syrup you would use to mix with the carbonation and
Exactly.
make Mountain Dew in a fountain drink. Correct?
exactly right. Yep.
It's an ingenious idea.
I
You
shouldn't
guys,
be telling everybody. Damn it.
can I just can I request that you try this with Dr. Pepper?
Oh, we've talked about this.
Oh, that
we're
could
trying
be
to work that
wonderful.
out. Yep.
A darker beer with the Dr. Pepper flavoring, like a beer. Think of a beer that would have
Like a Dr. Porter.
right, like a beer that would have a chocolate undertone to it, and then the Dr. Pepper's in there. Oh, we should do a beer and collaborate. We should do a smoking and toasting Dr. Pepper porter with you guys.
Okay.
See, if you ask them on the show, then they can't say no
It's a
without
little
seeming
tougher.
rude.
We've been thinking about going more in a different direction with it, but I'd like to play around with that.
I do like this beer though. Again, I'm not a Mountain Dew guy, but this is tasty, and I would. I don't know if I'd buy a case.
You know
but
what? I don't like
I'd
this
buy
one
a
as much as I
4-pack.
like the other two, but I also finished it.
Yeah.
I can't
no,
stop drinking these.
No, and that's the thing about these sours is that they all kind of beg you to take one more sip. They've got that quality to. I call it the Doritos effect because after you have it, no matter whether you like Doritos a lot or just a little, after you eat one, you really do want another one.
Yep.
And it's kind of like this. That's a good thing for beer to have. It'll help you. It'll help you move a few more 4-packs, is my guess.
Yep.
So wow, that is. I can't believe we tried 3 beers from this series that were that different from each other. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like they all were so distinctly different, and yet they all had some things in common. Mostly the consistency and the juiciness is what they had in common. But I'll say it again: if you are someone who has been hesitant about sour beers, these would be some really good ones for you to try. Because they're not like most of the. So they've got their own thing going on. This entire series, it's really, really cool. All right, we are going to take another break, a quicker break this time. When we come back, we're going to be tasting some rum. It's the Frigate Reserve rum. And you mentioned you have a beer that you thought might be good to taste in the segment.
Yeah, I think it'll be good for cleansing off the palate from these to that. I think it'll be a good transition.
Awesome.
So we'll be going with that. Plus, Drinking News is coming up, ladies and gentlemen.
News.
Yeah, can't wait. Ian will be singing the theme song himself. It's Drinking News today.
Singing.
It's your turn today. Yes. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. That really makes you laugh when I do that, doesn't it?
It does.
This is very sexy music. You almost just...
In the beginning.
Yeah, it makes me think. I just watched. I had never actually seen it, and my wife said, you got to watch it. We watched the Ray Charles movie with Jamie Foxx.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
But just the way that... And they... In the film, he does a great Ray Charles impression, but they kept all of the singing was all actually Ray Charles. And Jamie Foxx was basically lip syncing to it, and it seems like maybe that wouldn't work. It was totally the best decision.
But he plays the piano.
Piano. Oh, I mean,
unbelievable.
He does an unbelievable performance overall. But the music is just so good.
Did they have the extras after it where they show him sitting with Ray Charles and playing piano?
I got to go back and watch. I'm not sure if I watched far enough to see that.
Yeah.
So I may have clicked out during the credits and not stayed with the extras. I'll have to go back and see that. Yeah, I've seen Jamie Foxx on like talk shows and stuff talking about the role and meeting Ray Charles and how cool it all was. But anyway, so that song kind of makes me think about it because it's got that little funky gospel-y R&B vibe to it. We're gonna do the beer first.
Do beer first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave was mentioning this might be a good palate cleanser for coming off of the sours and before we go to the rum. So this is your pills. Is that correct?
One of.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So is this one that's available on an ongoing basis, or is this a...
Yeah, this is batch 2. We do slightly change it up.
Okay.
For each batch, and the label relatively looks the same, but I changed the clockwork behind it.
So there is you can see a slight difference.
Yeah.
In the batch.
So like I said, this is batch 2, and we do designate them differently. We designate them as batch 1, 2, and now coming up 3.
All right.
And that's just, this is the one where we are playing with different base malts for each batch.
And talk about how Pilsner is a more difficult style to brew than an ale. How much more difficult?
Extremely. I mean, this is where this is a brewer's beer right here. I mean, if you go out and talk to every brewer, you put this on your menu when they go into a brewery, they're going to order.
That's what they're going to order to see how good you are, right?
Exactly, because there's nothing to hide behind. I mean, that's the big part that everybody doesn't think about. They're always, this big porter, this, that, and every other big beer. But
there's a huge malt profile you can hide
you can haul. Exactly.
It covers a lot of mistakes, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
If you
and
make
this
them,
when it's all one malt, one hop basically, and time, you got nothing to hide behind.
Wow,
and that's where timepiece comes into this. This one takes 2 months to make.
Wow.
Versus some of these other beers that we can put out in 2 weeks.
Right.
Think about that. You can take that tank and make 6 beers, 4 beers off of that tank versus the time it took to make this one beer. So that's another reason you don't see them as much or in this way.
That's awesome.
And
it seems to be becoming more popular, though.
Pilsner and
Pilsner and lager seems to be becoming more popular with smaller craft brewers, and I think that maybe that's why, or maybe they
It's-
get a little more experience and decide,
Well-
okay, now's the time to do it.
Well,
or,
I was going to say it's my guess then, based on what he was saying about how brewers look at this.
oh, this smells
is
good.
It's my guess that this is something they want to show off. If they
Yeah.
feel like they can do
This smells like
a good
bread.
Pilsner, it's like, why would you not want to make one of these and show, hey, I really do know what I'm doing
Oh,
here, you know?
And especially for us when we are doing so many of these goofy sours with Mountain Dew in them and stuff like that. This is my one to say, look, we can do
Look,
that.
we're a serious,
and we can do this too.
Pilsner
So
brewer.
this
as
is our
well,
third
yeah.
down. Like, hey, all right.
I love it.
This smells
Now
like
here you got a lot of nose, and it's really
like,
good.
like malty bread.
In
Yep.
such a good way too.
Yes.
Yeah. This is one of those that I would be like trying to sniff it, and I would wind up actually inhaling some of the beer.
That's all right.
Because it's so it's got such a wonderful, like you said, almost yeasty, malty flavor to it.
Kind of a Bavarian vibe to it.
Yeah, it's very much.
Oh, it really does, yes.
Yeah, so it's a German yeast. It's actually a French Pilsner malt grown in the Champagne region, a small
I
farm
don't
there.
think I knew
Not
that the
very
French
common.
grew malt.
Yeah, not very
Wow,
common at all.
that's very cool.
Which is why, obviously, as soon as we found it, we have to do this.
The balance of the carbonation in here is really good too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
It's not distractingly carbonated, but it's not undercarbonated. It's actually really right on.
And I love the balance of the bitter. There are some of the
There's
Bavarian
some hops in there.
Yeah, but there's some of the Bavarian style beers that I don't. The bitter just kind of stays with you longer than you want it to, and it doesn't finish as clean.
Yeah.
This is super clean, and you get the enjoyment of that bitter, but it doesn't wind up obliterating the other flavors in the beer.
You need a little bit of it just
Yes,
to
you do,
keep it
for sure.
You know, once again, like the sours, you need a little bit of that tartness. You need a little bit of that bitterness to sort of cleanse off the palate and keep you wanting to pick up the glass. But after that, for us, it's trying to show off the yeast characteristics, which is all a technique thing in fermentation, and then trying to show off this malt, which in this case, the French Pils malt is just extremely light and clean with a nice.
It's got a
as we all
very
said.
delicateness to it.
It does, yeah.
A delicate.
But the aroma is
Kinda-
just
Yeah,
right on for me.
The
It's
aroma's
just sort of
great.
cracker bread.
Yeah.
This is great.
Crackers, actually, I think. I said bread at first, but I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think cracker might be a little more.
I think I always sort of go straight towards saltine without the salt, like that sort of plain white cracker.
Right, it's
I get
definitely
these
there.
baked crackers from
But
Kroger
I would-
that are so good.
I would
Smell
love
like-
to drink this while enjoying like a big soft pretzel with lots of mustard.
Oh, yeah.
think about
Absolutely.
Think
or
about how
cracker
great
with
that-
some
yeah.
extra sharp cheese.
Oh yeah. Found some really good extra sharp.
then we
cheese
also-
and specs, by the way.
Oh, nice. I'm
Yeah,
a
really good.
cheese fan.
Yep. And this would be good. A lot of people think wine with cheese, but the right beer with cheese
Yep.
is just exceptional.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with a really good sharp cheddar. Oh, fantastic.
So you're selling these as 6-packs?
4-packs.
4-packs?
Yeah.
And how
Go
much
go
are
with
you
the
selling
16 ounce.
How much are the 4-packs going for?
These ones, I believe, are 14 a 4-pack. We are not your most economical brewery out there, but we don't. You know,
well, yeah, no, this is super
but
high
it's
quality.
not,
This
it's
is
not what you're
absolutely
doing, though. You're
fantastic.
producing things that are.
exactly. When you're bringing in French
Yeah,
Pilsner malt,
exactly.
and giving it 2 months in the tank,
You
it's
could
not gonna
do
be cheap.
this cheaper and sell it cheaper, but that's
Yeah.
not the kind of beer you're trying
No,
to brew.
we're not.
And that
And
makes
this one
sense.
is also like single decoction, so the brew day is extremely long. I mean, it's just a lot of labor in this beer.
So when you do batch 3,
Mm-hmm.
what will likely be different from batch 2?
Batch 3 is all the same, except for we are going with an Idaho Pilsner malt.
Okay,
Grown
so it's a change in one of the ingredients.
the
perhaps,
the
from
one
the beer.
base, which is probably
Okay.
the biggest ingredient as far as poundage goes that's in a beer like this.
Nice.
And this is a small boutique farm in Idaho that has just been producing great stuff. We knew we were going to do this beer, but we had to do the French one first, because we love this malt. We played with it before, and this next one we're really excited about.
Would you be able to go back and get more of that French malt if you wanted to use it again?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, because this is awesome.
Yeah, this is outstanding.
It really is. I don't know what batch 3 will taste like, but it would be awesome
and
for
then
you
we
to be
got
able
some-
to say, "Hey, this is batch 2 over again."
Well,
for
we
a
got some
subsequent
treats.
batch.
This one will be coming out. So each one of these batches of timepiece now, we've been taking a little bit out before we can it, or before it even gets to lagering, and putting it in barrels. So we're doing the oak lagered Pilsners for this one. So this one will be in.
Nice.
It's aging right now in the walk-in. So we actually take the barrels, fill them up, we rinse out, try to wash out a lot of the wine characteristic to it, but still, obviously, some's going to be in the wood. It's wood. Fill up 2 wine barrels worth, so it'll be 60 gallons apiece, 120 gallons total. Those are aging in the walk-in cooler. So we take the whole barrels on their rack and put them in the walk-in cooler, and they'll get 3 months in there.
You don't
And
hear
then
about Pilsners being aged in that
No,
way.
this is
I don't think I've ever heard of that before. That's why I'm.
what a
this is
wonderful
it's
idea.
It's really cool. We've done it in the past, and then we'll can condition it, and we'll roll out the red carpet for this beer because it's
That's
a
exceptional.
lot. It's 5 months in the
Well,
making.
this is wonderful. I must have more. I will. Do you still have some 2 available?
Still have some 2 available.
Is there
not
still
much.
some in the can?
Well,
No, there's not, but there's another can.
Oh man. well, this is wonderful. So I recommend it highly to anybody who wants to see what they can really do. Now, Ian, before you open that, and this was a great palate cleanser, but I do think we should break up the beer and the rum with a little drinking news. So now, ladies and
Drinking
gentlemen,
news. Drinking news. I don't remember
now
the
it's
rest of
time
the
for
words.
drinking
Oh,
news.
now it's time for drinking news.
See, he's better at this than I am. He's
Yeah.
a musician. I'm not. Drinking News is a segment on the program, ladies and gentlemen, where we like to share a story with you that may or may not be about drinking, but certainly could be more enjoyable if you have been drinking. And we've been enjoying some of the Urban South brews.
While you're talking about drinking news, I'm going to pour.
Please, yes.
Nice.
So for we've been doing Drinking News for about maybe 9 or 10 shows now. And so far, the number one most oft occurring opening statement is a Florida man.
Florida man.
yes.
Followed by a Louisiana man. And I think what was last week's, Ian? It was like something like
Was it South Carolina? or-
no,
I don't
it was
remember.
another country, a Scandinavian man.
Oh,
something like
that's
that.
right,
Yes,
that's right.
because it was
Oh yeah, you got to go far and wide to match a Florida man.
But today's is a little different. It opens with the phrase, "A black German shepherd named Brick has shot to stardom on social media after his owner posted a picture of the pup." And go ahead and put it up, Adam. That's a doggone dead ringer for Batman. Yes,
pup?
Which Batman?
That's a dead ringer for Batman.
one of the good Batmans.
Okay,
Yeah.
Michael Keaton. Then you
Yeah,
mentioned.
yeah. Not the George Clooney Batman, but one of the good Batmans. Jelena Janovic captured this image when her 5-year-old pup pricked up his ears after a scolding. She says, "I was taking a panoramic portrait and waiting for him to make a calm face and look at me. He was so bored he started eating snow. I told him no, and he raised his head, tilted his ears, and gave me that look for a split second, and I caught it on camera." So I'm just showing you that on
Wow.
the feed.
Wow, that's
this,
cool.
ladies and gentlemen, is the dog that looks like Batman. And quite frankly, he looks a lot more like Batman than George Clooney did,
I'm Batman.
and maybe more than even Val Kilmer, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
You know, one of my favorite Batmans was from the Lego movie.
Oh, the Lego...
Why
the
that's
Lego,
so
That is
funny.
pretty funny.
I'm
Yeah.
Batman.
yeah, he's got the best Batman voice. The
Yeah.
Lego Batman is the best Batman voice, for
And
sure.
he never breaks it either. It's just
Yeah.
it's actually pretty good.
No. So you got to love, and I could read you the rest of the story, but what's most important is that picture. So this is one of the times that if you guys are not watching the show on the video feed, but you're listening on audio, it's probably worth it to go find in what is this, segment number 4? Segment number 4 of Smoking and Toasting.
Drinking News.
The Drinking News, and it's worth it.
And look at the picture.
It's worth it to see the photo. All right, so with a palate cleanser of some really outstanding Pilsner, the Timepiece Pilsner from Urban South HTX, we are now headed into the rum.
The
Ian,
rum.
can you show that to the
I
camera?
will show it to the camera. This has this beautiful stamp on the front. It's like a giant postage stamp. And it's Frigate Reserve 15, age 15 years, it says. Product of Panama, 80 proof.
Yeah, so it's a Panama
And it has
rum,
a little,
or Panamanian, I
It
guess
has a
you would say.
little coin on here that
Yeah,
says Life
yeah.
on the Wing, and a little stamp that says the same thing. It's got the bird,
Is that a gull? Is that a seagull?
seagull.
Yeah. Jonathan Livingston rum?
Yeah, I was blanking on that. The frigate, the frigate or warbird keeps its vigil over. It's
Oh, so the
frigate.
frigate is a bird. See, I thought it was
Okay.
a ship, but a frigate is a
the
bird.
frigate or warbird keeps its vigil over the ocean's blue lens by day and night, making landfall only and occasionally maintaining its station as master seeker of the world's seas.
Oh, see, I love when they have a story.
symbolizing complete freedom within those spaces where the sea and sky become one. Such is our choice, life on the wing.
So this is a 15-year rum, and on the nose, what I'm getting is all kind of chocolate and cinnamon.
So I get cinnamon, I get a little of the like the raw sugar.
Yeah.
Coronado
a little bit of
sugar.
that,
I get
the sugar cane.
I get a little rubber, a little bit of like chemical
see that.
rubber.
Well,
kind of.
the Jamaican rums have a tendency to have a very strong amount of that rubberiness to them, and it's not. It sounds like a flavor
It
that
does
you,
sound
that you
weird,
wouldn't
right?
want,
But it's actually kinda good,
It's actually quite good, yeah. But this does have on the nose a bit of that. I'm not sure if I'm really detecting it though in the flavor.
What's interesting though is it doesn't taste a lot like it smells.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I definitely saw a difference there. I mean, I get vanilla and French oak from that, but then the aroma or the flavor is completely.
So
I
the
do get some
flavor
of the vanilla
comes
in the
across.
flavor.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the flavor comes across with almost a brown sugar and butter.
Yeah.
You know, there's almost a graham crackeriness lost in there somewhere, and some cinnamon.
It has a little bit of heat to it, but it still goes down incredibly smooth. Which we've talked about how smooth can sometimes just mean it's it's a little watered down. But this didn't feel that way to me at all. It's not. We've certainly had some higher proof rums that kick a little harder than this.
Yeah.
But this is this lets you know you're drinking a brown spirit, but still goes down with quite a pleasant.
It's
finish.
clean in that way.
Very
much.
clean. Yes.
Yeah, it has a very clean aftertaste. Clean's a good word for that. It's nice. It's interesting because none of the flavors really linger, but the heat,
Right.
which isn't real strong, is still there a little
The rum
bit.
hug is very casual.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I like it. In fact,
I do too.
This
Enjoy it.
strikes me as one that would get better and better as you sipped it. Not because of the alcohol content, but just the flavors
I'm
would
trying to imagine what would
blossom
happen
a
with a
little
little
more.
water. I'm going to try just ridiculous.
Now,
It's Topo Chico.
Topo
but
Chico's
I don't
going
know
to
if
have
that's
some
gonna matter.
carbonation. You going to be okay with that?
I'm going to see what happens when I put just a drip of it in
All
there.
right, don't put too much. Just in case, This is good rum.
Have you not been drinking these Topo Chico mixers out there?
I
Oh,
have
they're
not tried the mixers. No, are they really good?
Yeah,
I
mean,
do
it's-
love
I don't know
Topo
if
Chico.
it's, I don't know if it's call it mixer, but like a highball with Topo. Is,
Yeah. So the one that I have had
This
is
becomes a gingerbread bomb.
yeah,
interesting.
Like as soon as you add a touch of water, it
opens it up nice and.
gingerbread rum. It's like if someone made gingerbread with rum.
I have had one really good drink with Topo Chico in it. It's called. I got the recipe out of a airline flight magazine. I think it was Southwest Airlines had this in the flight magazine. It's called the Gibbons, and it came from Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top.
Nice.
And the Gibbons consists of basically Pura Vida tequila, Topo Chico, and a slice of jalapeno.
Oh, jalapeno. Huh?
And it's really delicious and
Yeah.
refreshing.
You see
And
that a lot with lime, but
Yeah,
I like the
slice
jalapeno
of
twist.
jalapeno. Yeah, and I think it says that you can basically add a little lime juice if you want or not. The jalapeno will give it the sort of edge if you don't. But the Gibbons.
This has to be an only Texas thing. I mean, you guys know Topo is Texas. Like,
Oh yeah.
Texas
they-
and Mexico. It's very big in
Yeah,
Mexico
well,
as
maybe
well.
My
Yeah.
brother can find it at certain places in Arizona.
Yeah, but 75% of all U.S. sales are here.
Well,
in
and I will say
Texas
when
for it.
people from other states come visit us in Texas, they have no idea
Yeah,
why
exactly.
we're so crazy about.
And the twist
Topo
of
Chico.
grapefruit one.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, it's really
fantastic.
good.
Oh yeah,
that is
I've had
really
the lime one. I haven't had the
The
grape.
twisted
it's
grapefruit is wonderful.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful. Well, I'm enjoying this rum very much.
Yeah, very
this
much.
this is I will say it's a.
I'm not enjoying mine anymore.
Okay, well then that bottle there in front of you should help you to enjoy.
I will
it
enjoy
further.
my next round of it.
Yes, I will say that it's not the cheapest rum in the world. It's not as expensive as the 20-year or the 25-year Florida Cagna that we had here recently. But this is about a $50 bottle. So for rum, that's not.
So this is why you were concerned that I was pouring Topo Chico in it.
Yes. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just like, hey, this is good rum. Don't take too many chances.
No, I just thought it'd be interesting, and I used the last little bit, but it really did turn it into like a gingerbread rum bomb. This also reminds me a bit. My mom used to make a mocha cake that or rum mocha cake.
That just sounds good.
Sure does.
Yeah.
And it was a sloppy thing. Like
Yeah.
she
But
cut
some
a
of-
square in
some of
there,
the
and when she
best
put it on the
cakes are.
plate, it just
So there
was
was some cake in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
yeah, there was like all over the thing.
My wife makes this
But-
chocolate cake that's called the Texas cake, and it'll just fall apart all over your plate, and it's
Yeah.
the best cake you've
Yeah.
ever eaten.
You end up
Yeah.
scooping it
yes,
up more
yes,
than
absolutely. You eat
Yeah.
it with a spoon.
Yeah.
Love
it's
it.
awesome.
Love it.
and your finger at the
Yeah,
end.
yes. See, you know me. You know me well. But no, I really like this a lot. Actually, I feel like this would be. It's just that. It's just kind of what you would want for a rum in that price range to be. It is better than the $30 bottles of rum, but you didn't have to pay, $150 for it.
It's
to
interesting
get
too
that,
because
you know?
the flavor profile. The more I drink it, and I get a lot of that mineral water in there as well. But the more I drink it, the more I kind of get out of it. So it's like the flavor keeps revealing itself as you drink more and more.
Speaking of rums, by the way, I'd like to give a huge shout out and thank you to Samuel Fitch from Flor de Caña Rum. He was on the show about 5-6
awesome.
episodes ago, and he sent each of us, Ian, Adam, the producer, and myself, sent each of us a commemorative bottle of the 25-year Flor de Caña with Smokin' and Toastin' engraved on the bottle.
Oh,
it was such a
beautiful.
wonderful gift, and the rum is so freaking fantastic that it's just like I want to like not drink it, but I want to drink it. It's that.
Well, I already opened mine. If you remember last week,
Yes.
our guest we talked about it, and he was like, "Oh, I'd like to try that." I was like,
right.
"Well,
The
right after
bottles
the
had
show.
come in, so I brought the ones. They sent them to my house. I brought the ones for you and Adam, and so after the show was over,
I got a question though.
we
Why
opened
was
up
mine
your
only
bottle.
half full?"
Well, they told me that some contents may settle during shipping. Yeah, that doesn't explain why yours was open though. I have no explanation for that.
Must have been when they were inspecting it at
Yeah.
customs.
Well,
yeah.
I did some inspection when they arrived at my house. That that could have been. So.
But it was absolutely delicious. We
Well,
had a.
this is great.
wonderful.
All right, so we're going to take another break. We're going to come back and we're going to taste. We haven't talked a lot about this yet on the show, but you guys got involved in the whole Black Lives Matter brewing movement.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Why that was something that was important to you guys, how it went, and Ian and I have not been fortunate enough to taste the beer yet,
Great.
and I understand you brought some.
Yes,
So we'll be getting to that in our final segment. Plus, I do want to talk a little bit also about the beer that you guys did. That was the collaborative beer that we've tried some on the show, but not yours. And that was the one where a lot of the proceeds went to help out bar and restaurant workers
Yes.
who were displaced during the COVID. Is it Altogether? Am I saying?
Altogether,
Yeah,
collab. Yep.
Altogether. So I want to talk a little bit about that when we come back and do some tasting of your Black is Beautiful line. It's Urban South in the house at Smokin' and Toastin'. It's show number 197, and we will be right back. Welcome back. It's Smokin' and Toastin'. This is the radio program and podcast that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com, a great new website with cool T-shirts for cigar lovers. They got them in all kinds of sizes, and they are they're cool. They're snarky. They're wonderful. I think you'll enjoy them. So check them out. Go shopping at MyCigarShirts.com.
I guess I'll be checking them out after
I
the
hope,
show
I hope you
today.
will. I think you'll dig them. So before we get into our final segment, and we are so thrilled to have Dave Ohmer here from Urban South Brewing, I want to talk a little bit about what you guys' philosophy has been for Urban South HTX and about some of the projects that you've been involved in. But before we go there, we did a segment like this on last week's show, and I'd like to do another one because I feel like it was helpful. It's kind of a public service, I suppose, for the world from Smokin' and Toastin'. And if you remember last week, I showed you some mask wearing tips during COVID and how that wearing your mask like this isn't actually helping when you're in the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Now I'd like to recreate for you something that I witnessed this week. I actually saw this happen, and it made me realize that we need to continue with mask education. So let me show you what what happened. I have to take my headphones off to demonstrate this. I was in a grocery store.
Okay.
And there was a young girl in there shopping with her parents, had her mask on just like this. And then as I watched, fortunately I wasn't close to her, but as I watched, she did this. Achoo! Okay, people. That's what the mask is for. When you are wearing a mask, it does provide some protection.
I totally thought you were going to cut a hole in it.
Yeah, well,
because it makes it easier to breathe.
Yeah, there's been some
because
people
I've
that have
seen
done that
this
too.
Yep,
Yeah,
I've seen
some
this.
people that have done that too.
There was actually a thing on Facebook, and I don't know if it was a joke or not, but it was a mask that had like a kind of a little folded thing in front of it.
Yeah,
kind of like the front of men's underwear, so you could drink out of a straw.
Ah.
Oh well, see, that didn't make any sense to me either.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe they're saying if you're out someplace and you're going to drink, it makes more sense than taking the mask off.
I have witnessed a knit mask.
Oh, a knit like a
crochet.
sweater, like crochet.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not going to help you a whole lot either. So we'll continue with these mask
people are
etiquette
missing
updates.
The point.
Yes,
Yeah.
We'll continue with these mask etiquette updates as as circumstances dictate. So anyway, but no. The whole point of the mask is to catch the mask. Honestly, is more about being kind and respectful to others than it is about. It does offer some protection for you when you're wearing one, but primarily it's about, so if you sneeze or cough or expel anything, you might be asymptomatic and be in a situation where you would spread something and not even know it. And so the mask is designed mostly to help other people. So be kind, please. It's not that big of an imposition.
It's just a mask, people.
It's just a mask.
And it does go over your nose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your mouth simultaneously.
Yes, absolutely. So it's been a crazy time in the United States. The COVID epidemic has changed lifestyles everywhere. And then shortly after this began to really impact people, the death of George Floyd sparked a number of protests and marches. I live in downtown Houston, right by Discovery Green, so I saw the huge crowd that came out for one of the big marches. I couldn't believe that many people were there, and I will tell you that what I saw was all quite peaceful. Yeah. I know there have been some situations that maybe have, where one group or another has not behaved the way that they should, but what I saw was quite peaceful. In fact, in some of the footage that I saw on the news about it, you even saw I don't remember whether it was the chief of police or whether it was the deputy. There was a high-ranking law enforcement official who was like down in the middle of it, connecting with people, hugging them, standing with them. It was one of the coolest connections, which I thought was such a positive in this time when there's been such friction between law enforcement and the protesters. It was such a positive that he was down there in the middle of it saying, hey, look, I'm standing with you guys. And anyway, I thought it was very cool. In the brewing world, it's something where a number of brewers around the country have gotten involved in releasing a beer that is part of the Black is Beautiful Beer Initiative. And this is something you're making available. And I want to make sure I state this correctly. Do proceeds from this go to local Black Lives Matter organizations? Is that the way that it works?
You get to choose. They left it up to you to choose which, but suggested it go to something in that sort of world,
right?
To help push the cause.
Okay.
Ours for this one will go to Black Lives Matter Houston.
Okay.
We all, there's also all NAACP, that's a great one. There's a bunch of other groups, even just other ones that are helping, youth, underprivileged youth or underserved youth has been I think a great cause that I've seen some breweries contribute to.
Absolutely. So how did you guys get involved in doing this? Is it something, do you sign up for it? Do they contact you? How does it work?
So Weathered Souls is the brewery that sort of started this initiative.
Kind of kicked the whole thing off.
Yeah,
right?
and Marcus is a person of color who, it's one of the very few Black-owned breweries.
And Weathered Souls is in San Antonio.
San Antonio,
right?
yeah. And I've known Marcus, and as soon as we saw it, we were on it. We jumped in the first 100 to get in on this thing because we just, we were looking for some way to contribute and help and not be disingenuous. And as soon as you see this, and as soon as you get a chance to join in with Marcus, who's producing great beers and particularly great stouts in San Antonio, and a guy I've known now, we were just, it didn't even hesitate. Like we saw it.
That's great.
And a couple of the other employees at the brewery said, "Hey, Dave, did you see this?" I was like, "Already signed up for it."
Yeah, that's great.
We're going.
Do you have a sense for how many breweries around the country got involved in this?
Last I saw, which was just like last week, we were at 1,050.
That is so cool.
Wow. I mean, the number's still been going up, which is cool because they're going to keep coming out. So if you're just signing up for it now, your beer's not coming out for a month. So
right, and we've shared some stories about different breweries in Philadelphia and other places that sold out almost immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And that same thing kind of happened to you guys, didn't it?
Yeah. Our batch didn't even last 18 hours.
Wow,
great.
Gone.
So is this something you'll continue to go back to and do new batches of?
We have a second batch in the tank now. I mean, this fight isn't over.
Right.
There are challenges within that too. You don't want to be really late to the game and have this beer sitting around. You want to be in it when this is hot right now and everybody's behind it.
Right.
And that's, just sort of to really promote this kind of story. But as breweries are continuing to sign up for this is going to extend the window of this kind of thing, to where.
Right. Well, one thing to remember too is with a lot of these causes, whether it's a disaster or a disaster like this, you have the rise of everybody being very aware of it at the beginning of it, and then as it keeps going, it trails off to where 6 months down the road, a large contingency of people aren't thinking about it anymore, but the problem still exists.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And it's important to have follow through and keep those movements going.
Yeah, exactly.
Dave,
and that's what our title for the second one is fight's not over.
Right.
I mean,
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Have you run into any pushback, any criticism because you're not a black-owned brewery and you're getting involved in this cause? Pushback from either side of the debate.
We, here in Houston, I think Houston probably, especially as a person who didn't grow up here, probably has a different reputation. Than what you are when you're living in it. So within Houston, we've had next to zero pushback in any sort of way. It's only been all support, which has been great. But I've heard that from a lot of other breweries in a lot of other parts of the country, that have had some people that have either said,
accusing you of jumping on a bandwagon.
Exactly.
Or
or even other pushback to where it's just we're not supporting you anymore. It's all kinds of, and that was a big reason for us to get in on this one as a predominantly white and basically across the industry and at our brewery. It was tough for us to sort of think of a way to get involved in Black Lives Matter
and have it be authentic.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And so for us to join in with the rest of the breweries around the country, which automatically makes that voice and that message that much louder, and to do something that we already do and that we feel we're good at and we're passionate about, to use our craft in a good way, I think that's the best way we can do it. And then obviously the proceeds, for us, it was anything that didn't cost us, which we had a lot of great companies donate materials for this beer.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Anything beyond that, with that, we covered our initial cost in it, and then every single other bit of the proceeds are going to Black Lives Matter Houston.
That's awesome.
I think that's the most genuine way we felt we could contribute to this movement.
I think it's important. I think that in the way that I come at it, and of course, I don't.
Speaking of,
yeah, why don't we pour? Yes, I don't have the perspective of being African American and understanding what it would be like to live in that world as these things are happening. But I will say that from my perspective, what I think is almost the most awesome is when you see individuals or companies that are not African American who are saying, hey, we're going to stand with you on this and we're going to be a part of the supporting group. I think it's, in many ways, it's almost more remarkable because this is not your fight. It's someone else's fight, and you're saying, you recognize it as important enough that you're throwing your weight behind it.
But right is right.
Yeah.
Right is right. You're absolutely
Yep.
correct. You're
And
absolutely correct.
that's exactly right. I mean, we know what right is right, and so then how do we do it genuinely?
So
Yeah.
the can that you brought us here is from the first
Yeah.
bit of
Can I
it
see
here.
that
So
can?
yeah, let's pass that over. This is an Imperial Stout.
So yes, it's 11.2% Imperial Stout. It says 10% on the can, but that's because once again the labels got done, which were donated by Blue Label Printing.
That's awesome. It's a beautiful label too, by the
Yeah,
way.
now
It
that was all
is,
done with Marcus. That is we did not alter it in next to any way from what Weathered Souls put out there, except besides putting our logo on it. And then as we brewed the beer, like I said, Marcus and Weathered Souls out of San Antonio, they just do amazing stouts. So for us to be able to have that window into what they do and their recipe, we kept the base recipe pretty much straight up.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going
I
to
like-
ask.
I like
did
how
did you go by their recipe? Did you alter it in a way to make it your own? What was the appropriate thing to do?
Yeah, and so within craft beer, you're not going to suppress creativity. So obviously, on the announcement to all of us breweries, along with the other collab we'll talk about soon, they did not suppress any kind of creativity. So what our approach was, let's do the base beer that Marcus would sort of want, and it gave us a great insight into what they do and their great stouts out of Weathered Souls. And then we sort of did our twist on it. And that was where we came in with other adjuncts. And ours was vanilla beans and lots of vanilla beans.
Well,
Our
I
favorite
love
stout.
The vanilla. I
There is
love
a
the
ton of
vanilla in
vanilla.
this.
Did you
yeah.
try this yet?
Yes, I just did. It's
is
wonderful.
vanilla, and the lactose in there really makes it smooth too.
Cool.
Yeah, it really.
I like how you did the label here. It says Urban South, HTX Urban South Brewery on the bottom corner there. Produced and canned by Urban South, and then on the backside, Weathered Souls Brewing Company, brewed to support justice and equality for people of color, hosted by Weathered Souls. I think that's really classy.
Yeah.
Really nicely done.
Yeah, we wanted to keep
Yeah.
we wanted to keep the message simple and get their point across. I mean, I don't want to, get in the way of what Marcus and what he's doing for the nation, for Texas, for his brewery. I didn't want to get in the way of that at all. So our only thing was let's get our logo on it, get what legally for the state of Texas we have to have on there, and then sort of step back from it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you misstep if you say too much.
Yeah.
So letting the sort of original message shine through is probably the
That was
best.
it.
Can
the
you
best way to do
imagine
it.
a caramello? Remember the caramello
Yes.
bars with dark chocolate?
Made with dark chocolate instead
I'm
of like the
imagining-
milky chocolate or
I'm
something.
imagining that right now.
That's what this. I mean,
Cool.
this is.
And this
so
also
good.
has Ethiopian and Kenyan blend coffee beans.
I was
you
gonna
can
say the
taste
coffee-
some really
Yeah.
great coffee flavors in here. Yes.
The coffee on the aftertaste is so nice.
And that was the coffee was donated by the roastery here in Houston,
Nice.
which are located in some of the HEBs around, including the one by us. The new at Studemont in Washington, that HEB has a roastery in it, and there's also one at the San Felipe HEB.
I didn't even know that one was there until about a month ago. I drove by it and I was like,
It's
hey.
Yeah,
and it's a nice
I
little
was just
setup.
saying, it's giant.
So I
too.
walk
Yeah.
in. I was like, well, I might as well shop here. I got to shop on the way home.
Yeah.
So I walk in and I'm standing at the meat counter. And a friend of mine's working behind. It's like, hey, man, what's up? I was like, oh,
Cool.
what's up with you?
It's a nice spot. I wish.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
really
once
nice in
again,
there.
You
Yeah,
know,
give me a good cut of brisket.
Right?
So this, how will there be any difference in the next batch of this? The one you said's in the tanks now.
next batch is same base beer. We're not messing with that. He just knocked it out of the park there, and it comes through well on our system. But the next adjuncts will be coconut and chocolate cookies
Oh.
and vanilla beans. Vanilla beans, you just assume if
I'm
we make
all
a
over
stout,
that.
Yeah.
if we make a stout, it's got vanilla beans in it. It's just like our salt for cooking.
Do you have a release date for the next batch?
We're probably looking at about 2 weeks out. I'm hoping to narrow that down. We are very reluctant to announce release dates because we let the beer
Let the
tell
beer
us.
decide. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. I know that people will be able to order this on your website.
Yeah, Shopify or Square, but you can find it through our
Shopify or
website.
Square. Okay. Your website will direct you to the Shopify store.
Yep, exactly.
Where you can buy the beer. And I'm assuming that your other beers that we've sampled today,
All the same, yeah.
whatever the current iteration of that is, you'll be able to find that on there as well.
Yep.
Are there restrictions that make people in certain states unavailable to buy this? And
Yes,
have it shipped?
unfortunately, we are not allowed to ship. Across state lines creates a whole nother dilemma. You have to have a federal approval then. But even within Texas, the governor has not allowed us, even during this pandemic, has not allowed us to. And we've lobbied and lobbied and lobbied to try to at least get shipping within Texas. And we are not legally allowed to do it.
So what areas can you ship
super
to?
local.
We are not allowed to ship anywhere.
Really?
Texas does not allow it. Now, many other states, like if you're in Ohio, you can ship anywhere around Ohio you want.
So
other breweries ship into Ohio because of their less restrictive laws.
Right.
But Texas and Governor Abbott has not
This is
allowed
just
it
one
whatsoever.
of those things that makes no sense to me.
Zero.
What? Who is benefiting in any way by
Those distributors
the
we
problem
talked
is you
about
cut out
earlier.
the distributor, and when you cut out the distributor gets mad. And distributor's got big arms.
Yep.
They got
Very
big arms and they got big lobbyists. Is
Yep.
what they got. Yeah. So tell me this. Then when I go on your website, what happens if I order some of this?
It is available as long as we're open. It's available for pickup immediately.
So I order it. You hold it for me
Yeah,
until I get there.
We'll hold it for 7 days.
I was going to say
and
for a reasonable time. Yeah.
And we're even very, loose on that. You send us an email or call us and say, hey, I won't be able to get there for 10 days, 2 weeks. We'll hold it, as long as we know. After 7 days, we'll usually shoot you an email and say, hey, are you planning on picking this up? If not,
Right.
no
If
problem.
not, we'll let somebody else buy it.
yeah, we'll refund your shipment and we'll sell it to somebody else. And, we try to keep it as simple
love
and, as nice and easy for anybody to come get it as possible.
Well, any of you who are watching or listening to the show that are in the Houston area, this is a brewery that deserves your support. I love how you guys have approached your whole philosophy, which is basically saying, hey, let's go small batch. Let's do new stuff all the time. This is really where I think the craft industry finds itself.
Yeah.
Is not so much that customers, drinkers are looking for someone to develop their next favorite IPA that they're going to drink forever.
Every day.
Right. They're interested in what you're developing now and what you're going to develop tomorrow.
Yeah.
And how that's going to be. I may not be able to pick up the same sour that I love today from you the next time I come by the brewery. And
But
get
we'll have a
something.
sour for you.
But you're going to have something else that I might really, really be interested in.
Yep.
So
and I think that's.
I have a question. A lot of breweries start off with a basic core line. Like I've got to have an IPA, I've got to have a stout, I've got to have a porter, I've got to have 3 more IPAs because that's what most everybody does now.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Hey, that's an annoying thing. What is your core line? None, huh?
We try to just hit, like you're saying, we try to have
hit
more
one of each.
well-rounded sort of categories.
And hit the categories.
Yeah.
and-
Try to have something dark on.
But
always
again,
a
you're
lager.
not saying this is the beer we brew every time.
Never.
Not at all. None of that is
Not
happening.
one.
But if
Won't
I come by today, likely you've got several sours because you've got the line.
I don't know.
You don't know. Really.
We don't want to paint ourselves into any corner. In
I,
any way.
I love this approach because, there's a couple places in town that make amazing salsa. And when you show up, you never know exactly what the salsa is. It might be really hot today.
Right.
Or it might be more mild.
Yeah,
It might be more garlicky. Or it
the
might not.
peppers we're getting in.
But it's always good.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this is it's always a little bit different. It's always a little bit exciting, and I love that idea.
It's as close as you can get to that just awesome homemade. Like my buddy, Rowdy Yates, the country radio guy, he makes salsa from time to time, and he always sets me aside a jar. I've told him, I will pay. I'll buy it by the case because it's so good. He's like, it's different every time. I don't want to get into that. I'll just make you a jar whenever I make the next batch. And it's the most exciting thing when he says, hey, I got a jar of salsa for you. And in a way, this is kind of like that. It's like if we trust you, which we've sampled enough to know that we can, right?
Yeah.
If we trust you, we know you're going to be developing something that we're going to be interested in trying and may fall in love all over again.
So just a quick shout out. I have a buddy of mine that makes salsa. He makes Esteban salsa. His name is Matt. And I've had a few cans of it. But one of the things he just did recently is he put a thing up on Facebook and said, hey, give me some ideas on what my next kind of salsa is going to be. And by the end of it, he did a peach salsa.
Oh,
I
cool.
can't wait to see it.
Peach salsa is delicious. Yeah,
Esteban salsa, look it up. It's pretty.
I will
check
be.
that out.
I'm a salsa
Me too, yeah.
nut. I love
He
it.
made one that had tea leaf in it.
Except for
And it
warm
was
salsa.
so
except
good.
For warm salsa.
Except for warm salsa.
I
Yeah,
don't understand this Texas.
I like salsa cold.
Yeah, I don't understand this.
I don't know
warmed
why.
up salsa.
Just for me,
I don't get it.
My favorite salsa,
Houston,
honestly,
why are we doing this?
Yeah, my favorite salsa though has a tendency to be the salsa that was made today.
Yeah,
like that.
I like fresh.
The freshness is just.
I don't
you
like cooked
can't-
salsa.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
I'm,
like
I'm not as
warm
big
salsa.
into that. Although I'll try anything.
Yeah, of
but,
course.
But yeah, the person who figures out how to make that fresh taste stay in the can or the jar,
it's tough
is
to
going to
do.
be a
It
millionaire.
Well,
yeah.
the last time I saw Matt and was looking over salsas, he had one that had tea leaf in it, and I
Very
was like, "That's unusual." And
Yeah.
I tried it, and I brought home a jar of it. And it's kind of a green
Yeah.
sauce, and it was so good. I mean, that jar went
Love
like,
that.
that
Yeah,
is
love that.
amazing.
Yeah, love that.
That's cool.
Well, Dave, before you go, I want to ask you about the other collaboration that
Okay,
you guys
great.
were involved in, which is the Altogether beer.
Yeah.
This is one that where did this one actually
This
start?
one was spearheaded by Other Half Brewing
Other
out
Half,
of
that's right, yep.
Brooklyn, New York.
Mhm, yep. And Other Half is another very well respected
Very
brewery.
much, yeah.
And this one was an IPA.
This
correct?
was an IPA. This
Yep.
was once again sort of a similar thing. They put out a sort of, base recipe, a suggestion, and we stuck pretty close to it. No brewery's ever going to be able to make the exact same beer
Right.
on completely opposite systems and stuff like that. So
unless they're making Budweiser, where they have contests from the Budweiser master brewers in all of their different
Yeah.
breweries around the
we
world.
don't have that
to
kind of
see who can make. Have you seen it? It's called King of Beer.
Yeah.
It's a documentary, or Beer Kings, I think is the
Who
actual
can make
name of it.
the exact
Who can
same
make-
thing better than everyone else?
I made the most Budweiser yet. But never mind trying to make the best beer.
Yeah.
Just the most
Dilly
Budweiser.
dilly.
Dilly dilly.
And then I'll tell you what, that's an impressive feat within itself. Trust me. It
These
really
guys were
is.
very proud of themselves. I
Yeah.
mean, they took it very seriously.
But when Other Half puts out a nice IPA recipe, just like Weathered Soul's putting out a stout recipe, you just say, "Yep, I'll do that."
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
And then there's some slight tweaks by us. You do what you got on hand. We might not have the exact same hops that they have or something like that. So we were allowed to do some
To put your
switches
own
on it.
spin on it
Yeah.
to a certain degree. Well, we enjoyed one. It was from a brewery in Wisconsin, if I recall, and we thought it was terrific. Actually,
Great.
It was really delicious. But I haven't had a chance to try yours, which leads me to my next question: will you be doing more?
Yeah, so we I guess to celebrate the second wave of the coronavirus,
Yeah,
we decided to do a second batch of this. This once again the fight's not over. I mean,
right.
these-
You
a
know,
lot
you're
of
totally
these,
right.
yeah, these especially in Texas, who was probably didn't get hit as bad up front, but it's definitely feeling the second wave here. And a lot of our breweries are, and a lot of our restaurants are feeling that. So once again, we're not done. So let's do another batch of it, and it's same 100% of the proceeds. That 100% of the profits all go to. For us, we're supporting Smoking Southern Smoke, which is a group led by Chris Shepard, and they do nothing but support the hospitality
That's great.
industry here
That's
here in
great.
Houston.
I mean, if that's how you make your living, you have not been able to work for
Yeah.
months now.
Yep.
It's tough.
Musician right here.
Musician.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
And there
You know what?
There are some
when
great
bartenders
organizations.
aren't working,
You're not working.
Yeah.
guess what musicians are doing?
Yeah.
They're not
They're
working.
not working, yeah. And there are some organizations that are working to help musician relief too, and that's another area where it's terribly needed. When you think about bartenders, waiters, waitresses, musicians, you don't think of them as necessarily being what we might call essential to our lives.
Their paychecks are essential.
But let me tell you, they are essential to our lives. I mean, I don't want to think about a life.
Go a day without music.
Yeah, where you go a day without music. Seriously, I don't.
Go a day. Try it.
Yeah,
And you're gonna have to put earplugs in because even if you just go to the grocery store, there's music.
right.
It's everywhere.
Absolutely, you got to. So these are and bartenders, waitresses, hospitality workers of all kind. I mean, I just feel this so much because it's an area where I never actually worked as a waiter, but I did work as a DJ, and bartenders and waiters and waitresses were my entire social group for a number of years.
Yeah.
And I just know how they lived from night to night based on what the gratuities were,
Yeah.
what they were able to make. It's a and these were all just such wonderful people. So it's a group I feel a lot of solidarity with, and musicians of course. I feel you, brother.
I would like to also offer you a little bit of recognition for being, I think, only the second brewery ever that has come on this show and didn't bring an IPA.
Yeah.
Hey, I was bummed about that.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think that's awesome.
This is-
actually.
as
I'm
you
not
can
against
tell-
IPAs. I'm just
We love
tired
them.
of them.
As you can tell, this is a little bit of a push-pull between
Yeah,
Ian and
seems like
myself.
it, yeah.
So, yeah, but it's
but
okay.
I'd figured most had. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
so.
but I will say,
All but
and-
one
and-
other.
and no one's brought this beer here.
No,
I
No,
promise
no
that.
one, no one. And not only that, but you didn't bring any beers that caused me to need to go fetch a toothpick from the kitchen out there.
Oh,
So I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I was
as well.
thinking the Black is Beautiful might need that. That's
Oh
pretty,
no, that
that's
is
pretty
that
thick.
is a wonderful. I mean, my only complaint about that beer is that it would be awesome if that were available all the time.
Yeah.
That's just one of those beers that good. It really is.
Bruce put up, I'm a part-time bartender once a week on Mondays at my Elks Lodge. Now Monday nights I work from home and I'm the only customer.
And strangely enough,
Don't forget the tip.
And he's making the same
he's
amount
making
of
the
tips.
same amount of tips. Exactly. Man, Dave, this has been a lot of fun for us. Thank you
You're
for
not
bringing.
kidding. Yeah, it's been great.
Thank you for bringing such great beers. We appreciate it. I want to give a little shout to the Frigate Reserve 15-year rum.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I'm good. Loving that. That is really, really good stuff. Want to say thanks to everybody who helps to make the program happen, to Mary who puts the bookings together, to Adam, our producer on the Wheels of Steel. Thank you guys so much for getting us to 197 episodes. Next week, Liliana Rodriguez will join us. We will be talking all things tequila, and
Yes.
believe me, she knows her tequila. Dave, if you want to come back and just hang out and
After
try a
like
few
4
samples.
shots, I'm a tequila expert too.
Okay, perfect. We'd love to have you. You have an open invitation. And then for show number 199, Trey Boring, our legal expert, will be joining us. And then for show number 200, Ian, we're going to do it very low key since we can't celebrate the bicentennial the way we would want to. It'll just be you and me. We'll talk about some of our favorite things we've been able to do over the first couple hundred episodes of the show, and we'll taste some really good stuff.
That sounds fun, and we'll just have to save our show 200 festivities, our bicentennial festivities, until everything opens
Trust
up
me,
again.
yeah, trust me. When we can do them, we'll do them, and maybe we just invite everybody, not just people who have been on the show, but everybody. We'll just make it a free.
Did I mention, by the way, I saw a great COVID meme?
No.
It said, back in my day, we used to cough to cover a fart.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful week. I think I still have a little bit of the Pilsner left, so I'll use that to toast us out. You have anything left, Ian?
I'm about to.
Oh, well, if you're going to pour rum, you better pour me some, then we'll go that
now
direction.
see what I done did?
Dave Ohmer from Urban South HTX, thank you for making such awesome beer, and
Thanks for having me.
thank you for bringing it for us. Does Dave have anything to toast with on our way out? Oh, I think you better pour him some rum too.
Yep.
Yep. That's the way it's going to be.
Nobody's sad about drinking more rum, I see.
Not when it's this good. Urban South HTX, check it out. If you're in the New Orleans area, check out the original Urban South Brewery. Have a great week, my friends. We'll see you for number 198 next week, and cheers.
Cheers.
Sunshine is so good to you.
Fun time. Thank
It
you
goes
so
shorter
much.
when we have less fun.
It does. It does.
Whatever happens, don't leave it so soon.
Bruce says, great show, guys. I'm practicing my well.
That's awesome.
Dude, he
I'd
is
love for him to be-
hilarious.
Yeah, he really is. So, Ian, I think for show 200, it should just be you and me doing a Chris Farley impression the whole time. Yeah, remember that time when we had Urban South Brewing on and they brought all those sours?
I live in a van
That was awesome.
down by the river.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why that one's so funny.
It is. Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for that to be as funny as it is. I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure out how to.
He was such a
He's just
physical.
a funny man.
Yeah.
You know?
He was like when he was standing there, just You know,
Right,
he was
they're doing that. "Ugh."
Yeah, like a lot. Like if you didn't see him, like, he would not have been like a good done a record of comedy type of guy.
No,
you have to
needed
visually
the visual.
see him.
That skit he did with Patrick Swayze, where they're the male dancers.
Oh, my
That's one of
God,
the
the
funniest
Chippendales
visual
dancers.
things. That's one of the funniest visual things you've ever seen. You just can't you're actually kind of trying not to laugh, and you can't not laugh. You know.
Well, because he could do that, he could do the comedy that you're embarrassed to watch it. You know, you feel embarrassed, that you're watching it, but you can't stop. It's like a train wreck or something.
Oh, I was telling you I watched the Ray movie. Dave Chappelle plays Fathead Newman in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.